Welcome back, everyone, to another video. I'm back again today with Chris Awad, who is the ex-police sergeant with the Fort Bragg Police Department, which is in Mendocino County in Northern California. This is going to be part 3 of the 3 total parts that I'm going to be doing with him. The first part, we covered his termination with the Fort Bragg Police Department. The second part that I did yesterday was to go over the possible illegal use of asset forfeiture funds on behalf of the city of Fort Bragg while he was employed there as a member of the Mendocino County Task Force. And then today we're going to be going over another topic regarding him and his history that a lot of people have reached out to me about regarding, and kind of do what we did in the first one in regards to his termination, where we're going to just go over what it is and show how these things aren't always what they seem, and kind of debunk a lot of the rumors and bad information out there. So so we're going to cover that, and then we're going to get into him decertifying his post certificate, which in the state of California means that he's no longer going to be in law enforcement. He was the first person in the state of California to do that. And then we're going to be clarifying a couple of additional things in regards to his termination that I didn't go over in the first video. So let's go ahead and get into it now. Chris, thanks again for coming back on. Let's go ahead and get into it. This raid on your house was by Homeland Security and the FBI. They did a search warrant on your place, and this was after you had been terminated. You were no longer a police officer at this point, and this was at your house in Fort Bragg. So why don't you go ahead and tell the story?
That's correct. And I know that this is kind of what people want to know. I mean, this is the juicy info that people, in a majority of people, are wondering, as to what this is about. And so it's about solvent trap from the Wish app. And what that caused was 3 Bearcat SWAT vehicles, tons of FBI agents, a massive production of a search warrant of my residence. And I mean, ultimately it was loud and they weren't quiet about it. And it raised a lot of questions, and we just kind of went, let it go in the wind, but we're going to address that today. But yeah, that's what caused it. And, it's just kind of funny. Like, this is almost a year later after the incident of ordering, and they had sent me the paper that said that they had intercepted my packages and I could file an appeal to get them back. I never filed the appeal. I just surrendered them. And then almost a year later, here comes all of this stuff. And so I'm going to go over right now. I have a copy of the warrant that they left. And when you do a search warrant at someone's house, they don't have to provide you a copy of the warrant. That's a courtesy. The only one thing that is in the penal code that they have to provide you is a copy of the property receipt, which is for the items that they take. So what's on the property receipt is evidence of the crime. Okay. And, for ours, it was, and my significant other was home at the time. I wasn't. And the line of questioning that they gave her was all about me manufacturing assault weapons and, illegal firearm, like machine guns and shit. Like, I'm like, you said, I don't remember what movie you referenced, but I'm not that type of person. I'm not a gun nut. I have guns, but I also had to get a new department Glock because I tried to take the trigger mechanism apart to clean it and couldn't figure out how to put it back together. So manufacturing machine guns and all this armament stuff, that's kind of beyond me how they came to that conclusion or whatever, but we're going to look into it a little further. And then additionally, what's kind of weird to me too is how, the main root of this happened almost a year prior. How did they get any probable cause to obtain a search warrant for my residence without any fresh information, and there would be no fresh information to get. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a copy of the warrant here.
Wait, really quick, Chris, before you do that. So just to clarify, so 2 solvent traps is what they're called, were ordered from your account on the Wish app, right? With your address delivered to your residence. And then
No. I got a letter from the Homeland Security saying it was intercepted.
All right, but I mean, it was to be delivered to your residence. And then Homeland Security said they intercepted your package. And then a year later, is when they did
almost a year later.
yeah, is when they did a search warrant on your house based on you ordering those solvent traps. So I'm going to just share my screen really quick in case people don't know what those are. So that's confirming that's these right here, right? And I know that people turn these into silencers. They can. I mean, really, they're made for you know, like what cleaning your firearm or some. I don't really know. I'm not like a gun person either because I don't really give a shit.
So yeah, and I mean, the ones from the Wish app weren't even that elaborate, and you know, it to take something like that from the Wish app,
they're all over the internet.
Yeah, there's like you see right there, solvent traps direct. One, it's not illegal to own them or possess them. Now, if you create them into a silencer, yeah, you know, that is state dependent. Like over here, in the state I live, I can go buy an actual real silencer from the sporting goods store, you know. So but yeah, the ones that I was looking at weren't even that elaborate, nor would I trust something to bolt on the front of a firearm from Wish and start busting caps. I mean, that's like, to me, that's instant fragmentation of metal shards to the eyeball. Like it's just not
that's what that whole thing was over. The three Bearcats that showed up, the FBI, the Homeland Security, the individual that was you know, liaison with the Mendocino County District Attorney's Office. All that was because you ordered
right. And that's those. It's kind of funny, and I'm not like a conspiracy theorist or anything, but that person was Kevin Bailey. So
right. And Kevin Bailey, we discussed, in case people didn't watch the first video about your termination from the Fort Bragg Police Department. Prior to this, he was the one that was, you know, one of the main ones that caused your termination. Like, he definitely went out of his way to ensure that that happened. And then he showed up to this search warrant at your house, right?
Right. So, I mean, I don't know if that's just a happenstance or what. I mean, maybe, I mean, I'm not going to dismiss the fact that, you know, I knew a lot of cops in the county and they were doing this and they needed a contact. You know, you need a local contact when you do such an operation like that. But how and why I got this response, I mean, you know, we talk about a threat matrix, and maybe I do register high on a threat matrix. I don't know, but I think that one, also, Kevin Bailey and I worked together for years. I always called him for advice on cases and stuff, you know, so he would know that they could have easily just came, knocked on the door, and I would have opened my safes and let them search whatever they wanted, you know. But I mean, I kind of understand the agent in the sense of, well, you can't always bank on that, you know. But why we got this response, I don't know, because I can recall instances where it was over those Glock trigger things that make your Glock into an automatic. And what would happen with those is they would call and be like, hey, can you guys go out and talk to this person and see if they'll give it to you, but just tell them, you know, knock it off. That to me is what the standard procedure is for something like that. But
so what was the conclusion of these guys came in, you weren't home, you were at work, you were logging at the time, and you came home and your, you know, significant other stated that what had happened with all these feds at your place searching, they didn't find anything because there was nothing to find. So
the way she described it was like shit from the movies, you know, ladders coming over, like those fold up ladders coming over the fence, and agents barreling over our fences and stuff and all around. And, you know, at 6 o'clock in the morning, she's sitting there with her coffee. And like I said, I mean, ultimately, I'm just thankful that they didn't shoot my dog. Like, because I've heard stories of, you know, those guys being trigger happy on dogs and whatnot. So thankful for that. Nobody got hurt. And I'm going to show you a list of the items that they seized from me and evidence of my heinous crimes here. So we'll go to the front page so you guys can see. I'll try to hold it up to the camera. I don't know how Zoom works, but
I can see it.
Can you legibly read that is a United States District Court warrant signed by the magistrate? This is the copy they left us. And then on the next page is the property to be seized. Now, granted, I'll remind you that they have to list everything that they take as evidence of your crime. And I'm sorry, this is going to let a lot of people down, the rumor mill, but if you can see right here, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's nothing seized. So they took absolutely nothing. They came and did all of this and spent, I don't know how many hundreds of taxpayer dollars just so that they could get this piece of paper right here that says nothing seized. They didn't even take a piece of mail for indicia to prove, and indicia is just a documentation or something to prove that the person that you're searching for lives there, or, you know, you're at the right residence, right? They didn't even seize a piece of my mail to prove that they were at the right spot. They took literally nothing. And you know why they took nothing? Because we didn't have anything illegal in our house. The guns that we have are handguns, shotguns for hunting, and I have a deer rifle. I had even gone as far as to give up all of my personal 30-round magazines to my coworkers. And yeah, so that's the result of that. No charges pressed, no nothing, because there wasn't any evidence of any crimes there. There wasn't anything illegal in my house. So they did all that shit for absolutely fucking nothing. And yeah, I mean, so that that pretty much sums it up. It was whole waste of taxpayer dollars. And then what's funny about it? The agent calls me up the next day. Okay, he calls me up and he's like, hey, so I'm the agent that did the warrant on your house. And naturally, I was fucking pissed and motherfucked him. I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, you could have just came and knocked on the door. And he was like, yeah, well, we couldn't risk that. But, if you have, like, we didn't find anything illegal in your house or whatever. And, but if you have any illegal, stuff, or can you just bring it to the sheriff's office for them to give it to me? Yeah, bro, go fuck yourself. Like, like, I've never ever called up somebody. Like, you do a warrant, you shoot your shot, man. That's it. You don't find evidence of the crime. That's it. You did it. Like,
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Bad Guy, I didn't find this, illegal AK-47 that you're not supposed to have. Is there any way that you could just drop that off to me? That'd be swell. Thank you very much.
I mean, like, the question that went through my mind is, well, okay, do you want me to order a couple more off the Wish app so I could bring them to you? Like,
well, and I wanted to touch on that really quick too. So those two, they're not even silencers, man. The kits, the whatever they're called. So those got ordered like almost a year before they did the search warrant. So and this working in the task force, and you explain this as well, but there you have to have fresh probable cause to search that warrant. So they had probable cause at the time a year prior, but you better update that shit within 10 days before that they're going to search, because how do they know that you still have those items and that's legally
right.
how you have to do it, right?
Right. So I have no idea how they freshened up their probable cause. There was nobody that came to my house, other than a couple people, and those items weren't there. So what they could have seen to get that, but in this, I'll go back to, you don't have to leave a copy of the whole copy of the search warrant at all, just a property receipt. So the probable cause is not put in here, but after kind of thinking about it and learning some facts, I'm going to definitely try to get a hold of that probable cause, because now I'm just curious, what is it?
Well, and essentially, I mean, they could have potentially done they could have done an illegal search warrant. So I did check with somebody that I know that works for Homeland Security. So they stated that for the search warrant aspect, the crime obviously doesn't have to be fresh, but the probable cause does within a week or two, still has to be fresh. And that is their policy. So the fact is they obviously didn't do that at all because they had no new probable cause. The only instance that they were going off of were those two kits that had been ordered a year prior. And then so
Right.
It sounds like this whole thing, they didn't do it legally or legit, in my opinion. I mean, based on what you're telling me, what your paperwork says and how it was done, right?
Right. And also, did you inquire with that guy at all about what's the procedure for this?
Oh yeah, so he actually told me, and this was in California as well, I believe. There was another guy that he was dealing with that in his 20s that had ordered hundreds of those things, of those same things, those Sullivan traps, right? But hundreds of them, not two like that was ordered off of your account. And I was like, did you do a search warrant on his place? And he said, no, we don't do that. He's like, I was like, what'd you do? He said, I went and knock and talked to him, meaning he went up to his house, you knock on the door and you say, sir, can you please knock it off, right? So no criminal charges, no, he didn't arrest him, he didn't do a search warrant on his house, didn't search the premises, didn't even ask to search the premises. So the fact is that you had, 3 Bearcats and as a multi-agency, event, whereas this guy showed up by himself with Homeland Security to this other guy's house that was ordering hundreds of what you ordered, just to say, hey man, we get, because they get the notification, right? They have stuff that monitors that when you order it. even though if it's illegal to possess in the state of California, but it's not, because it's what you turn it into, what people turn it into, that makes it illegal.
Mhm.
But if it was an issue where you ordered those things and it was illegal to possess in California, the Wish app should be held liable for that, because they're breaking a federal law if it is indeed illegal, which it's not to order those kits, right? But
Yeah, and I brought that up to the agent when he called me, and he's, yeah, well, we're looking into that. I mean, okay, right, but yeah, you can still go on the Wish app today and find. Well, shit, you can go right online and find them.
I'd
You
sue
know,
the shit out of those fools, man. That is absolutely insane. And not that I'm
yeah, I
saying,
mean,
like, if people make, if people turn those into silencers, I mean, that's breaking the law. That's a felony, whatever, in the state of California. But my point is, like, the fact that they waited a year, the fact that those weren't silencers, it was kits that were purchased, the fact that they asked you for that stuff after the fact, the next day when they didn't find anything, they had no new probable cause, nothing. I mean, yeah,
I
man.
mean, from what I take from what my significant other said is that was like even kind of a minor issue. That was kind of, like what got him in the door. In theory, it was more, she's like, they were questioning me about manufacturing weapons. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. Like,
It's funny
I'm
too,
just not.
because I know cops that make firearms, like they put them together. You buy pieces on the internet,
Mhm.
even in the state of California, and then you put them together, right? So, but I don't know. I wonder how they got that information, because you didn't do that.
Right. And like if as I think about it, I mean, the agent really, if he was given information that was bad, as long as, it's in good faith, he's not really on the hook for it. That's not what I'm curious about. I'm curious about who said what in the
Right.
probable cause, and that's why, since we brought all this back up and we're talking about it, now I'm going to probably go ahead and look into it a little bit, and
Well,
figure it out. So, because I
well,
know, certainly one, that wasn't at my house. Two, there was no one at my house that I feel he would have talked to in his investigation without talking to me, any friends of mine, because, granted, I had just got terminated from the PD. So my house was locked down, dude. We turned into recluses. I'd go to the woods and go to work and come home, and only the people I really worked in the woods with were at my house, so, and I trust all those individuals, not to make up some shit and try to
well,
get created, but it's like, I,
yeah, and then
so
so
yeah, I'm a little curious now. So,
well, I am too, and thank you for that incredibly unentertaining and anticlimactic story, because the like I said, since I've been doing YouTube, I've had people want me to address that story specifically, but I didn't know enough about it. I didn't have any of the documentation on it at the time, because it's not a matter of public record, or some of those things aren't. They're very, very challenging to get, even the stuff that is a matter of public record.
it's going to be hard for me to get a copy of that
Yep.
probable cause, even though I'm the subject of it.
But
So,
the people, exactly. But the people that did reach out to me regarding you in that incident, it made it sound like you were like, the equivalent of like the Pablo Escobar of gun running, dude. Like you were just like a one man army manufacturing like all kinds of like rocket launchers and shit like that. That's like how it was, relayed to me, the severity of all of it. And then now that we've looked through the documents and what actually transpired, nothing getting taken at your place. You didn't step foot in a courthouse. There was no criminal proceedings whatsoever. I mean, it just goes to show how, especially in small communities, just along with your termination, like these rumors just, some people you'll never convince otherwise. You're like, oh no, Chris had like a silo buried like on some out in the woods with like, all these crazy things. But it's like at the end of the day, if they had that proof, then you wouldn't, you would be in prison, right? So
yeah. So I'm sorry, it doesn't have, like I said, it's not more to it. And I didn't go through I didn't go through this strenuous legal battle to prove my innocence as being, a weapons manufacturer or whatever. But no, that's not it. It was entirely bullshit. And like I said, I'm curious, as to what it is. So if I get any further, I'll come back on and we'll talk about it.
yeah. So thanks for that. Let's move on, just for the sake of time. Just wanted to get that out of the way. And let's talk about the main reason that brought you on my channel is because you surrendered, gave up your post certificate, your California post certificate, which states that, you can be a peace officer in the state of California. And they passed that new law, Senate Bill 2, along with 14 or whatever it is, that state, like if cops, fall under these certain guidelines of lying, getting convicted of certain crimes, it's forfeited. They get it forcefully taken from them, and they can no longer be in law enforcement in the state of California. But you are the first person in the state of California on that list, but you voluntarily did so. And then, some reporters hit you up. They did that story in the Bay Area, and then we kind of decided just to do the whole thing here, right?
Right. We'll just get it all out in 3 parts. So, yeah, I decided on my own free will, that I didn't want to have that certificate anymore. I became, I'm aware of the SB2 law or whatever. And as I read it, I'm not even sure that my certificate would have been revoked. Based upon how it reads for me, I'm not sure that the confines of my termination would have been revoked, and I could have fought it, so we could have been, and that's a thing too. Like, I think that people think that SB2 came out and they're going to decertify all these police officers instantaneously. No, the reality is that unless someone else voluntarily surrenders it, I'm probably going to be the only one on that list for quite a while. It's untreaded water. It's a new law. The last update I got on it is that they have to establish a review board panel so you can appeal to it. And they haven't even done that. The governor hasn't even appointed that. My personal decisions for surrendering my certificate, one is I could never be, after everything that happened to me, I could never be as effective of a police officer as I was, so. And the reality of it is there's cops that have gone on with way worse stuff than I did in the same type of documentation, and they get hired at other agencies in the state. So the reality is, it would be difficult, but I could definitely have tried to go on and get hired as another police officer somewhere in the state or out of state, or, and granted, this only limits California from me. But I have no interest in being a law enforcement officer anymore. And so if I were to get back into law enforcement because of everything that happened, like I just wouldn't be effective. I wouldn't be as good of a service to the community that I feel I could be, just because of all of the things that went down. So ethically for me, I was like, I don't want to be in law enforcement anymore. I can't be as good of a law enforcement officer as I am. I want to move on with my life. I don't want to, even get the notification that they're going to review it and wonder, are they going to take, shit, it was going to expire anyways. So,
yeah, in May, right?
What's that?
In May, right? This May?
Yeah, in May.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, fuck it. You don't have to take it from me. I'll willingly give it to you. Here you go. Have this shit. I have no desire to want it or possess it, nor could I do anything good with it. So fuck it, have it. But to be clear, it wasn't taken from me.
Yeah.
I willingly gave it.
Well,
I willingly gave it up.
Yeah, let me screen share this really quick. So here we go. So here's the decertification list on the Post website. It looks kind of shitty. So Christopher Awad, it was surrendered, January 11th of this year, Fort Bragg PD, voluntary surrender. This is really interesting that it says the word voluntary and not stripped. It was not stripped from you or taken. Right. You gave it up on your own free will, clearly. So no stripped, voluntary. Got it.
Yeah. And like I said, yeah, I guess technically I am the first officer to lose his certificate, but I didn't lose it. I gave it up. Like, I gave it to them. And so, yeah, it was just a personal decision for me. And you know what? I'm happy with it. I didn't expect all the attention from it, but that is what it is. But the reality is, there's a lot of stuff inside of SB2 that, especially officers working need to be aware of. Like, it takes away the whole resign in lieu of termination portion. Like, it used to be that if you got in some shit and you're like, oh, okay, well, I don't want no part of this, you could just go in and resign and the investigation stopped right there. No, now they continue the investigation and come to a finding without your statements or anything. So yeah, you could technically resign, but they're still gonna complete their investigation. Whereas back in the day, everything stopped, right. And like I too could have just, when I got served with all my stuff, resigned and went on about my life. They wouldn't have finished the investigation, but I fought it all the way because it was fucking bullshit. The portions that I say are bullshit, Like,
Well, that's common, really quick. That's common practice too for
right.
cops to resign in lieu of termination. So it's not, yeah, that's standard.
Yeah. I mean, the portions that I say were bullshit, I take accountability for a lot of my actions and I don't dismiss their thoughts in any regard. I was a prick up there. But it had nothing to do with anything. I just didn't want to fucking be there.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, SB2, it's kind of untreaded waters. And like I said, I think that, the citizens of California think that there's going to be this instantaneous list or quick list of people that go up that they decertify. But the reality is it's a long time coming. And the reality is that I could have not sent that in there and my name probably wouldn't have come up for quite some time. And then even then, if they would take it. So
Well, and we've seen cops in Mendocino County, that have already been fired or, arrested or convicted of crimes that qualify to be on that list, but they're not on it yet, just you are. So that proves your point. Like this is going to be a while before it actually gets updated or dealt with appropriately how it should, right?
right. And they're gonna probably look at the officers that are still working versus the ones that aren't.
Right.
And another thing that that bill includes is that, so in terms of Police Officer Bill of Rights or POBAR, when they initiate an IA, they have to conclude it within a year and they have to give you your punishment. So say you go through your IA process and they conclude it and you get a 2-week suspension. Okay, that's fine. You go on about your life. And then now the department's required to send your IA over to Post to review it. Post can review it and be like, nope, we're revoking your certificate. So you could have already received a punishment and then, you could get punished again for it. So there's a lot of stuff in that bill that, if I was working the beat or whatever, I would be aware of. So, but yeah, no, it was my own free choice. I gave it up voluntarily. And, I'm just, like I said, trying to close a chapter of that and move on with my life.
All right. Well, thanks. Yeah. Now that we just kind of, yeah, that's done, cleared that up. A couple of people have already done articles on it or whatever, and they were under the insane impression that we were going to be, discussing some other crazy stuff in regards to that. But obviously it's very basic on its surface. So the one final thing before we conclude this entire stuff. So in terms of your termination from the Fort Bragg Police Department, it was because you omitted the fact that you had a relationship with that girl for your DUI case, which we covered in the first video with you. And it was very evident to me and a lot of other people that have reached out to me since I put out that video that the DA's office was clearly like coming after you, and you had zero support from your administration because they fired you for us. Yes, you should have been punished. You already owned up to that. I think you should have been written up and said, like if you ever do anything even remotely close to this again, you will be terminated, whatever. The firing was absolutely insane to me. So let me, just a couple things I wanted to clarify with you in regards to that, because the big thing that people are still not understanding is that I've been seeing is the fact that you did not get convicted of perjury on the stand. You did not lie on the stand. You didn't do any of these things. You didn't lie. The only thing, it went to arbitration and the arbitrator concluded, I cannot prove that he lied on the stand because he didn't. You said all the truths and the facts of your case. And but they were able to state that, yes, he did omit this relationship and that was it. Right. So you should have, obviously, I'm not going to get into that debate again. Like we know you shouldn't have done it. So, but I'm going to share my screen really quick because I looked at these documents in regards to the notes from the arbitration. And I just wanted to go over a couple of them just to kind of hammer that point home, even though we're kind of like beating a dead horse here. But so this is between your attorney and Melissa Weems, the deputy district attorney that clearly had her feelings hurt and took this very personally, went out of her way to see that you no longer had a job. But so the question to her from your attorney is, okay, sorry. And Chris Awad brings up the PAS test. Is that correct? Which is the breathalyzer test which states how high your blood alcohol content is. And her answer, he does. He indicates that he essentially defaulted to that, which is how it came across that day, was that he couldn't tell if the girl was impaired or not based on the field sobriety tests alone. So he defaulted to the PAS test. And then he expresses the opinion that along with the PAS test and objective symptoms that he observed along with her driving, that she was illegally under the influence of alcohol. Right. Is that true? That is that it was primarily based on the PAS test. Yes. So, but her main issue with you though on the stand, which is why she stated you were tanking her case, is because you said that this girl's FSTs were perfect or well done, and that you couldn't articulate much under the influence she was, right?
That she did fairly well on some, and like, I mean, like I said, when I read through it, man, it makes me mad again, and it's kind of what it is. Like I say, man, I don't discount what they were saying. I definitely didn't want to be there that day, but I in no way tried to tank this case. And I did in fact go speak to the district attorney on her behalf for the wet and reckless portion. But when the case was going, man, it was going. That was it. At that point, it's beyond my control. I just have to go up there and state the facts. But I was definitely unpleasant to be there. And
no, yeah, we know all that
around, and like I'll even admit, like, I treated Melissa Weems like a dick. Like, I wasn't nice to her. So, and it was like,
no, but I understand that. You already, at length, you already stated multiple times how you were at fault for this. And I'm not taking that away from you. What I wanted to point out here is how that she initially stated that you were trying to take her case and lie on the stand, and how other people still have this perception. Yet clearly right here, this is one thing that I'm going to bring up, is that she had she said, like, well, you can't say perfect or she did well on FSTs. I've never had a cop state that before, but it's like, really reading this, there's no other way to articulate it, because even in your report that you did prior to knowing this girl, you clearly, said even in that I couldn't tell how impaired she actually was. I had to do a breathalyzer test in order to determine her BAC, right? So that was one thing.
And that's another thing too, is like, when I do the stop on her, I don't even know this person. Like, I'd had one contact with her, I think, and it was for a vandalism case, and that was it. I don't know this person. So when I write the report, there's no writing to get somebody out of it. It's the facts. It's what it is. It's my observations based upon what I observed during my stop. So go ahead and we'll talk about your next one here.
Yeah. So the FSTs again, that were a huge issue. This is pretty long. I'm just going to like briefly skim over this. So the question from the attorney during the arbitration to Melissa Weems: and wasn't that one of your concerns, Melissa Weems, in this case, that it was going to be more difficult to prosecute because she did so well on the FSTs? Yes, any sign of symptom that I did have from the field sobriety test became increasingly important. So when he describes an FST as done pretty well, isn't that consistent with your own opinion of how well they were done? Yes. This is what's important to me, Chris. I think maybe what's lost by the transcript is some of the tone and the inflections and the looks to the jury about it. Okay, so I'm not even going to read the rest of this. Like, the people watching can if they want, but basically
right down there, it's actually pretty important. So,
is it? Sorry. But if he describes the FSTs as at least some of them has done pretty well, is that factually correct? Yeah, I mean, yes. Okay, so yeah, you're right. It was. So, so she admits right here that you didn't lie at all. The problem that she had was your tone, and I doubt she even knows you well enough to know, like, what tones you're giving based on, whatever you're saying. And especially, you were pissed off at the time. You already admitted multiple times you had a shitty attitude going in there. You didn't really care about the case. You had more important cases in your mind that you were currently dealing with. So, but the fact is, she admits clearly right here that it was factually correct. You did not lie. It was your tone that she had a problem with, right?
Yeah, which, you know what? She had every right to have a problem with my tone. I was being a dick. Like, no,
but it's what you can't get fired for being a dick, man. Like, right. But the whole point behind this, Chris, is we know you were an asshole. We know you wrote a shitty report. We know that you should have disclosed the relationship. Okay. The point here is that they were trying to insinuate, or straight up, not even insinuate, say that you were a liar. Yet she completely contradicts everything that she says before this arbitration by stating that, yes, he did state factually that these things were true and accurate. It's just that I didn't like his tone. You can't get in trouble for a fucking tone, man. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not okay to do. I'm just saying, like, you shouldn't like have to lose your job over that, right? Then the last thing really fast is a question to you. I think this is. And so from line
that's to her.
Oh, to her. Sorry. You're the attorney to her again. And so from line 3 to 7, does he give an opinion there after giving her the preliminary alcohol screening test as to whether she felt she was illegally impaired by the influence of alcohol? Yes. And what was his answer? Or, I'm sorry, I didn't ask him his opinion. He gave an opinion. his answer was based upon the test she performed, that she was under the influence, and that opinion was unprompted as well. Correct. So you gave unprompted your opinion on the stand that this girl was under the influence of alcohol.
Right. And I want to point out something too, like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ask him his opinion. He gave his opinion. His answer was that based upon the preliminary alcohol screening test, he formed the opinion she was under the influence. But in the other one that you had just read or whatever, she says, based upon the objective. So she omitted part of that answer that she answers later down the line. So she omitted some stuff in her statement.
Well, and so did Kevin Bailey when he said like about the jury thing, like, oh yeah, I don't remember. I might have got that wrong. Again, it's okay for them to misremember and get things wrong, but it's not okay for you to do it. And we only have, a couple of minutes left here, but I just, it's funny that, and just so everybody knows, like there is all these documents, it's like 200 pages worth of stuff. So for the sake of time and me not making 800 videos, I'm not going to disclose every single document on this. I showed the ones that were relevant and important to this case. I showed all the ones that with the things that they had personal issues with Chris with, and also proving how they are contradicting themselves and what actually transpired here. A lot of this shit, it wasn't important enough for me to put in there. If somebody wants to hit me up, it can be provided to them. I'm just stating like we're showing specific documents, not to give the illusion that we're lying in the situation. It's because this is what's relevant to this case. So clearly, and I've seen it before, people, the district attorney's office, they take things personally, they get very emotional, and they go out of their way to ruin people's careers because they get their feelings hurt. And clearly, in my opinion only, maybe this is my opinion, that I definitely feel that this was the case, especially when Eister said, oh, you didn't like my decision on that, huh? And then guess what? Very shortly after that, you got fired. So, and I've seen it with other people before. Kevin Bailey, it's very interesting to me. I mean, he goes on Facebook and, says like that, oh, this new generation of cop has tattoos and beards, and this is my main concern for law enforcement. It's like, you should probably be more concerned about the corrupt individuals that you used to work with, man. But yeah, so that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's my story, and thanks for having me on here. I'm glad that now I'm going to be able to put it to bed, man. So
yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, we'll just move on from this and close this chapter in your life. And again, thank you for coming on and sharing your side of everything.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you.
All right, later.